10,000 coders. Our sacred mission is to build, one day at a time, one human at a time, a world driven by a responsible youth who respects women, the environment, and in which the digital era contributes to humanity's progress as much as it creates decent jobs. Our goal at 10,000 Coders is to culturate, guide, and integrate young people from the mother continent into digital professions, but also the ones from France and around the world. An invisible, unheard youth who, thanks to our program, will be empowered and dive into its full potential. Being good with technique doesn't suffice. That's why our benevolent experts, with their careers and experience, take under their wings that youth so that they can take advantage of the opportunity that digital revolution represents for their professional integration and growth, whether through employment or entrepreneurship. At 10,000 Coders, we offer an inclusive three-stage support to unemployed young people and adults retraining for digital professions and entrepreneurship. We have the digital discovery, then the second stage, the training, the integration, and entrepreneurship. Tonight, we are taking you through the second webinar of our three-part webinar with leading global experts from our partner, Pegasystems, around no-code, low-code delivery, a topic which bears an era of opportunities. Part 2 today is the build phase.
What is Pega? No, it's not that. Or this. Impressive teamwork, though. Still no. And definitely not whatever this is. Pega's a powerful low-code platform for AI-powered decisioning and workflow automation. So you spend less time doing this. And this. And more time getting work done, like the folks at the most demanding organizations who use Pega every day. But not exactly these folks, because this is stock footage. With Pega, you hyper-personalize each and every piece of customer engagement. You streamline customer service experiences, so customers and agents are both happy. To put it plainly, we help you get more done by doing less. That way, your operations team is worthy of a dramatic slow-mo. You can acquire and onboard new customers and partners faster, and you can quickly respond to problems and exceptions before they happen. Not this problem, this one. The best part? You can do it all on a collaborative low-code platform, meaning you don't have to be these guys to adapt to change at light speed. Are you ready to connect people, process, and tech across your enterprise and feel as confident as the folks still walking in slow-mo? Well, it's never been simpler. Get ready to crush your business complexity. No, not like that. Like this.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kieran McConnell, and I'm the Chief Product Officer at Pegasystems, one of the world's leading software companies. I would like to welcome you all to this three-part webinar series. This series is designed to inspire all, but especially the African youth, and would reflect cutting-edge considerations in the global technology space. This has been brought to you by 10,000 Coders in partnership with Black at Pega, the employee resource group that I'm the executive sponsor for. We have a wonderful panel of leading experts that will speak to you about the ways we ensure customer success through Agile delivery. This is now part 2 of the webinar series, and part 1 looked at the discovery phase, which sets the tone moving forward. Let's now move to the build phase, a key aspect of implementing our findings from the discovery phase and bringing them to life. So get comfortable And as usual, make sure you take some notes and please be curious. Ask questions. And as I mentioned before, discover a world of possibilities. I look forward to meeting you again in the next webinar, which will look at the adopt phase. Make sure you invite your friends and peers, and see you then.
Welcome to this second webinar. We are tonight looking again into the Pega Agile delivery. And tonight, for this second part, the build phase, we are welcoming another set of panelists and experts in their domain. Last time, we had Valerio Gredel and Tonin Paulo with us to talk about this discovery phase. However, we ran into a little bit of a technical issue. So tonight, I'm welcoming again Gredel with us, just to make sure that she has time to talk about what she wanted to share with us and with you, obviously. But other people we have tonight to talk about that build phase and deep dive into it. We have Boris Quevi with us tonight as well, and Elvis Kenani. Welcome to the three of you. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Oh, we have a fourth guest tonight, Elvis. Thank you so much for taking the time with us tonight. Thank you to 10,000 Coders No Code webinar. Well, first thing we're going to do is obviously the introductions. Gredel, last time you did introduce yourself. However, we'll have you introduce yourself one more time if you don't mind. So let's dive into it right away. Introductions. Who's want to go first?
Maybe I will.
Gredel. Wonderful.
So let's see if I can share my slide. Okay, well, hi everybody. Thanks for having me back, Aisha. I really appreciate having that opportunity again. So like I said before, in the last time that we met, my name is Gretel. I am based in California and I was born in Philippines. I immigrated to the US when I was 8 years old. During martial law, and I grew up in California, went to school there in a small private Catholic university, had a finance degree and economics degree. And in that process, I'd like to say that I also got really engaged in terms of social justice and understanding and learning more about how to be an empowered leader. On my off time, I have a family and a husband, and we like to spend time doing a little bit of hiking, traveling, and then gardening as well. So those are my favorite things that I like to do on my off hours. A little bit about myself and my career. So I did graduate from university in 2001. At that point in time, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was curious about, the corporate world and how to make the business a little bit better in terms of what are the different types of businesses out there, whether that's in telecommunications or high tech or healthcare. So I actually landed a job with one of the big consulting companies called Accenture. And at that point in time, I got a better sense that business often meant business transformation. And my role at that point was being a consultant. I've been a consultant pretty much over 20 years, both in and outside of Pega. So I went through with Accenture, and then I decided to go into the healthcare organization and decided to do some implementations of projects there. And then from that, I got interested in the Pega technology. And I've been with Pega for about 13 years. The list that you see here up above are basically all of the different clients that I've worked with in terms of business transformation and project implementation. So my role as a principal business architect is really trying to understand the business value that we offer to our clients and what their problems are, and then translating that to actual projects. So I hope to talk to everybody soon, and I'll send it over to Elvis.
Thank you so much, Gretel. Elvis, would like to know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, thanks, Aisha, and thanks, Gretel, for that introduction. And yeah, for myself, I am Elvis Kanani. I'm so excited to be part of the guest speakers. Um, um, so I've always been looking forward to this opportunity to share a bit of my story, share a bit of my my knowledge and how I am here right now. So I was born in Rwanda and then moved to Uganda. My parents did migrate to the UK just after the genocide times, and then I came later after. So yeah, so from that time, that's where my journey began. So that's another long story to how I've gone from from secondary to higher education, which is sixth form, and from there, you know, choosing going to university there, which I'll talk about later on in my next slide. At the moment, as you see, last year I became a father of a baby daughter. Right now, she's gonna make 1 year in April next month.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, as you see in my picture, I enjoy adventures. I enjoy anything that gets my adrenaline going. I don't mind.
That is the kind of things that we don't expect. Usually, I'm sorry, I'm going to stereotype here. Black people don't like to be too high. We like to stay on the ground. That's an interesting one, but we'll look into that a little bit later. I'll let you finish with your introduction.
Yeah, there's only a few of us that really like this stuff, and so I think last year I tried to do quite a few sports, adventurous sports, doing bungee jumping, doing water sports, rafting, testing testing God, as I always say, but I'm still here. So thanks for that. I enjoy one of my my key things that I really appreciate is socializing with family and friends. It's one of those things. Once you dive away from work, is to bring yourself back to the world. It's socializing, finding about what's happening, and not everything goes around your world, but it's good to find out what's going on in other people's worlds. I enjoy community volunteering. I'm a Christian, so I used to volunteer church, helping the people in need, shelter, and I used to be a night guard at the same time, preparing breakfast. So it was quite something that I felt like I'm giving back to my community, and I actually enjoyed it. It did, because you're going to lose sleep for that Saturday or that Sunday, and at the same time you still feel like, oh, maybe I could go to church. But it was interesting, and talking to these people, finding out how did they get here. It actually wakes you up to think, I need to do a bit better, so I don't get caught up like this person or get in the same situation, and what they're doing to get out of that situation. So there's a lot I learned from there. I also enjoy networking, so anything that is curious, I would like to know a bit more about that.
You're basically a social beast.
I am basically. Yeah, I don't shy away from anything new, basically.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and coming to my education, so I funny thing is, I've always, my parents always said you've always been one of those kids that would like to, which I find curious about my daughter as well. She likes to try open things and try do things, and it's something that I've always been doing. Even at secondary, when I came to the UK, I chose subjects which were around physical, things that were a little bit complicated to solve problems. So I started through my secondary. I went to School of Engineering, which is still a secondary school, but there were a bit more topics there. And then from there, I went to sixth form, and then from there joined university. And funny enough, when I joined, I didn't even know they had this course, which was an undergrad, but it takes you over. You do an extra step, which is another year, and you do an MEng, which is a master's in engineering. So I opted in for that, not knowing that it could be one of those where you stuck 4 years at university. You don't get no opportunity to take a break and take a breather,
No
go
one
to
told
work.
you. No one
Nobody told me that. So second year, yeah. So second year, you're there and your friends are like, oh, I'm leaving. I'm gonna start. I'm starting to apply for jobs. About, yeah, I still got 2 more years to go.
Yeah,
But
I'm stuck in school.
I'm stuck in school basically, and I still got these dissertations. I got these theses I need to do. But it gives you that advantage.
It brought you more opportunities, right?
It brought me more opportunities. Yes, exactly. And before joining Pega, I actually got outsourced from another smaller medium company, which was purely doing embedded software. And this, to me, I always wanted to just do some coding. Yeah. So I got the opportunity, had started working there straight after university. It was quite good, interesting, working with, they give you a component and they're like, yes, this is going to an aircraft. And you're like, oh, wow, okay. So I need to do this audio driver. I need to tweak it. I need to make it, I'm talking now tech terms, but good thing we're all talking about technology. So it was interesting because, and then I got exposed to, at that time, self-driveless cars were coming into, the noise of the whole tech world. So I got exposed to, the product that they're using. I think at that time it was called AutoSAR, and it was Audi. So we're doing some, white box testing just to kind of get it to see, can we break it? So that was the fun, interesting thing. However, coming to Pega, and what brought me to Pega was that as just a developer, you're only doing a small fraction of the whole big piece. So I've always been curious of what happens after, who are the people that are going to use it? And that's where Pega came in. And when I remember when I got outsourced, it was a new program that Pega was doing. So I'm taking a bit longer, but it was a new program that Pega started where bringing in junior architects or junior graduate program. Yeah, okay. And I think at that time there were just 2 of us. From there, that's how I grew my career within Pega.
Hold it there, because we have something that we'll need to dive a little bit in later. We have a little time constraint for Boris, so we're going to take on Boris with his introduction and the little deep dive that he has for us. Boris, please come on stage. Hi.
Hi, Aisha.
Tell us about you, Boris, and then we're going to talk about the customer success that you're doing within Pega.
Sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Boris Kwevi. I'm a principal client success manager here at Pega, but I was born in Togo, and then I live in Togo, Ivory Coast, and France, and now I literally spent all my professional life in the United States. I came to the United States after my master's degree in France. I'm a husband and a father of 2. I have 1 girl at 12 years old, and then a boy, a 4-year-old. Things that I like to do, spending time, of course, with those 2, my wife and the 2 kids. They keep us, really busy. That's the least I can say. And my daughter she's quite active in doing ice skating, and she competes, nationally here in the United States. So it's quite impressive to see her, So, I travel with her just to see, how she competes, how she practices. So that I really enjoy that. Myself, I do a lot of cycling. I actually discovered that passion during the COVID. So I'm relatively new to cycling, but I really
revealed a lot of people.
Right, totally, yep. And on the side, I'm also an investor in early stage startups in Africa, mainly in Francophone Africa.
Okay, wonderful.
To talk about my education, I figured, as you can see, that I took a little fun with my education over there. So I figure, if I'm going to live on 3 continents, Africa, Europe, and the Americas, I may as well get 1 master's degree from each of those continents, right? I get a master's degree in computer science from in Ivory Coast. I got a master's degree in telecommunication engineering from France, and then I got my MBA in the United States. I have over 20 years experience total in my career. I spent the last 15 years at Pega. Beside my current role of client success manager, I've been in technical roles. I started in Pega consulting, as a system architect, lead system architect and all that stuff. I also, just for the fun of saying this, I was also part of a team of 5 who already started Pega Academy. That we want people to join and learn a lot about our technology, right? And prior to that, I had been a Java developer, J2E architect. So that's pretty much for me.
Before we dive into your role as a principal client success manager, I want to highlight one thing. Being a client success manager doesn't mean that you have to have such a technical background. I myself am a client success manager, but if you ask me, I have no technical background. The key to be a good success manager is to understand, one, the business value of the solution that we're selling, and to make sure that we work the client through the adoption of that solution, matching the goals that he has set. So there's a lot of active listening, being quiet during meetings, taking a lot of notes, matching things, asking a lot of questions as well. But Boris, let's talk about your role within Pega at the moment. Tell us about what is it? What do you do as a principal client success manager?
So first, you're totally right? You don't really need a technical background before you can do the client success job. That you're really right about that. The key things, at everything we do at Pega, we have the client success at the core of that. And what does it mean, client success? Right? It really, like you say, really helping the client achieve and maximize the desired business outcomes with our technology, right? And as a client success manager, what do? I really engage with all key stakeholders, business and technical leaders, executive sponsors, the project teams, pretty much everyone, to ensure that they are ready. At the end of the day, they are already satisfied, right? They already implement the application, the technology, the solution, the way that they intended to do it, and then they already adopt the solution, at the end, right? So, in part of the client success manager, we have already three pillars. So the first one is readiness, the second one is governance, and then the third one is business value. The readiness, the way I like to explain it to people who are not technical or who are not in the Pega jargon yet, is basically think about it as a pregnancy, right? A woman who wanted to go through pregnancy. Typically, she will start to ask herself a question about, how do I get ready for this journey? Right, and during the pregnancy, am I ready for the first 3 months of the pregnancy? Am I ready for the next 3 months? Am I ready for the last 3 months of my pregnancy? All those things, and making sure that she has around her all the support that she needed. So that's pretty much what we do in the readiness. Now move that back to Pega and to the solution that we build. Well, you wanted to make sure that you have all your stakeholders, right? The stakeholders will be the support that you wanted to have. So you have, like I mentioned earlier, technical, business leaders, executive sponsors, business architects, system architects, the citizen developers, everyone. You want to make sure that all those people have the knowledge of the product that they need to be able to be successful during the build phase, right? What the system architect needs to know is different than what the citizen developer needs to know. It's different than what the business sponsors or the business leaders need to know. The second thing that we do, really, which is critical, is to really to share with all those stakeholders how some of our clients, other clients, have been able to be successful doing the same thing that or something similar that what they're trying to do, right? So they can see some similarities and learn learn from the other clients in the industry. And then the third one is clearly to build, to create and drive an enablement plan. So people need to know different things, like I mentioned earlier. If people need to up skills, get new skills, we need to identify that and make sure that we have a plan in place so that they can get those skills before they actually needed during the build phase. The second pillar of what we do is the governance. So governance is basically how do we make sure that every single stakeholders are making the decisions that they need to make on time in a timely manner, so that everything continue to be a success, right? The business leaders, the executive sponsors, all of those people need to make decisions, but decisions need to be made by the citizen developers, by the system architects, people actually having their hands on the project. Making sure that when actions items are being decided, people are actually executing on those actions and close them. We have a term here at Pega when we call done. When you say something is done, let's make sure that it is really done. When we say we're going to do something, how to make sure that all those things are really completed and everything in a timely manner, right? And then manage escalation. There are times where things are not going this right, or they are not going as expected, and clients can escalate some issues. And then in that case, I will have to jump in to manage the escalation, making sure that we get things back on track. We get the support that we need internal to Pega to really support the overall client the project, right? And then the last thing is, of course, the business value. The whole reason why the client is doing all this is because they really wanted to achieve a business outcome. We need to make sure that we are monitoring some of the value drivers. We are measuring those business outcomes as we go, making sure that we always go back to the initial business value that they really wanted to achieve, and making sure that if you can share with the clients anything that they can do to really maximize those values, share that with them, and make sure that we have a great adoption of the tool. So I will stop there from my side, but I'm pretty sure that Elvis and Gredo can explain you in more details what they do as well, for the build phase when it comes to the role.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Boris. So it's just basically ready, set, go. And let's go hit the target. Make sure that the client is getting what he's paying for, the value for his money, and that we are getting the money. Obviously, we're getting paid. Well, Boris, I'll move to, I know you have something in between, but we see you in a few minutes. Gredo, Elvis, we moving into the build phase. However, before we get there, Gredo, let's step back a little bit.
Yes. So this is actually a really great segue, because what Boris kind of talked about and his role, I work directly with him as a customer success principal manager, and part of his role is that value proposition. And so the last time that we talked, we kind of talked about how Pega drives digital transformation through our approach of implementation and through our technology, right? And so we talked a little bit about, the discover phase, the prepare phase, which is what we've discussed, and I'll continue to talk. And then later on, Elvis is going to extrapolate a little bit more on the build phase. So from what Boris has indicated, right, the discover and the prepare phase is really about understanding the customer's journey, understanding their pain points, understanding, the problems that they're facing, and how we can provide a value to them. And so part of my role is helping to do that value assessment, doing that prioritization of the work that we could sequence so that we can have them go through and understand, for this iteration of every project, we provide value through our technology, through Pega. So you'll see here is really just kind of a summary of what we do. We the customer's journey. We understand then how to release those journeys. And then to what Boris has indicated, we then prepare to have the end in mind. So we look at what would day one look like to them as we implement. And so we have a readiness checklist. Part of that is making sure that we also have a governance in place so that when we're working with the clients or other partners, everybody knows what they're doing. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what we do in the prepare phase. I did talk about sequencing the work and prioritizing the work once we understood the pain problems and how we're going to be able to solve from them. So once we understand those issues and how we can then solve it through our technology, we prioritize that. So what you'll see here is that we have what we call minimum lovable product. We want to make sure that whatever we deliver from a Pega technology, that it is something that the client loves, right? And they keep on loving. So we then decide that for each area, each time we do a release, and what we call an MLP, we then do an assessment on, how severe was that pain point? What is that impact to change in terms of the end users? And then we look at the complexity on how, from an integration, from a data perspective, and also from a configuration, a low-code configuration from a Pega perspective, right? That what is that complexity of work in order to be able to implement that? We figure that out, we size it, and then we then identify what is most likely that we would want to implement with the client together on its first release and its second release, all the way up to its roadmap. So we kind of create the what you would like a staircase view of iterative value that we can provide to the customer. Okay.
So we're clearly looking here into an agile methodology.
That's correct. That is correct.
Absolutely.
And we do.
So I love that you guys called it an MLP instead of an MVP, because at the end of the day, yes, it has to be valuable.
Yes.
But the fact that it is lovable, that's where the adoption is going to be easier.
That's right. We want our whatever we implement out to be something that is not just something that the business can stand, right? We want them to truly adopt it. We want them to love it. We want to delight them in terms of the product that we are releasing to help their business operations or to be competitive in the market. So as part of that, we also look in the prepare phase and in the discover phase, what day one would actually look like. So these are just components that we review with them. We understand the customer journey. We look at their business benefits. So what we're going to provide for them, and we actually measure that. We understand who the users are going to be and what the experience of the customers would look like. We understand the system. So oftentimes when we implement, right, it's not just us, Pega, in a silo. It's kind of within the ecosystem of that client. So we have to truly understand how we touch the other systems that we work with. And that includes the data component to it. We also look at the project timeline. We understand kind of what the training impact is for the client and how their end users will be trained. And then we look to what the future phases are. So like I said, we look to try to get a release out there early for the customer so that they can then have something that will give them a value sooner than later. And then we'll say, okay, iteratively, then we can add to that value as we go through the future phases.
And that's the key for the adoption. If the client doesn't like or doesn't love what he has as a solution, the adoption is going to be more painful.
That's correct.
Potentially, it's going to drop at a certain point. Thank you so much, Gretel.
You're welcome.
Are we moving? Oh, okay. Sorry. Do you have the best practice part? I thought we were getting into the exciting part with Elvis because I still can feel his passion. We're getting ready, but please go ahead.
Yeah, I think what I would say is that if someone in my role, right, if you guys are interested in something, pursuing something very similar to my role as a principal business architect, and specifically within these phases of the project, one of the critical things, very similar to your role, Aisha, is that truly seek to understand, right? And listen with empathy with the client, because they do have a reason for why they have the problems that they do. And we're not just implementing just for the sake of the system. We're trying to provide a solution to them. And so with that in mind, we have to think about asking open-ended questions to them. Why are they having the issues that they may have? And then being equipped enough as a technologist to know your product. So then you can translate their business problem, offer them a solution. And then within that, you can also then figure out, how can I best work with the different parties that's going to help implement that? Not just the developers, not just our clients, but everyone. So really the soft skills of facilitation, being able to negotiate, what is the highest priority work, and what could be delightful, or how we can better solution. Those are things that folks in my role would really need to cultivate to be successful. So, and then of course, at the very end, really keeping in mind, always in focus, what the expectation of that scope and what that end user is going to be. So having a day one go live in mind is going to be very useful for someone in my role.
Okay. Wonderful. So on the part, know your Pega products.
Yes.
I highly encourage everybody to go on the Pega Academy website. I personally went on there and I just typed in, what am I interested into? I'm interested into the business architect role. And it gave me this set of courses that I can go through. And it starts with, what is no code? Why Pega with the no code? It's very, very well done. And it's very clear. So I did that because I just wanted to confirm my hunch on the fact that you do not need to have a purely technical background to work in the no-code industry.
Absolutely.
Having said, yeah, so here it is. So Pega Academy. Well, I love the way the website is on, by the way, very user-friendly. So whoever is interested, please go ahead. There you go. Business architect knowledge areas. This thing. I may actually start building another set of knowledge for myself. And this gives us the perfect transition. We're moving to the passion of the technology and the technique, Mr. Elvis. Right, Elvis, purely technical background. You are that's your 1, 2, 3 system engineers. Now, can you tell us how your role fits into that build phase?
Right, thanks a lot, Aisha, and yeah, that was good actually, and I like the way it's it's been incorporated. So we, as a development team, if I may say, we're in the middle, right? So we've got the business and business architect, and you have the client success manager. So we fit right in the middle. We deliver basically. So we translate whatever the business requirements are into Pega, and then get something so the customer can see. So my role as a system architect, is to basically, as we come in as a development team, we need to understand some of the key areas. For instance, we need to know who are the key stakeholders, our objective, and the most important thing is that MLP, because Pega, you can do anything with Pega basically, but rather than going straight dive, get the best of the best, we want to deliver, what's the value for that customer? What can they use Pega for? As previously, I don't know if it's been mentioned, but as previously, Pega as a service, Pega is used as a service, So if we go into the Scrum methodology or Agile methodology, from the part where I said we're in the middle with the in between the business architect. So when it comes to prioritizing and sizing, the development team gets involved as well, because we need to know what these small pieces of requirements that have been broken down from a big chunk of a customer journey, and depending on our resource, if it's a group of, depending on the resource, if it's 10, 5, 8 developers, depending on how big it is, with that we can say, right, for this first sprint, this is the capacity that we'll be able to deliver these key set requirements, and then we have to stick to it, and we have to deliver. If there's any technical challenges, we need to outline that prior, before even we begin. So we use these refinement sessions basically to identify what are the actual requirements. If for instance we're working with a bank, their requirements can be very specific, and there's certain key things that we have to look out for, like security. What systems do they integrate with? As Pega, we're a transaction system. We're in the center, and everything else plugs into us. So we need to know about the data integration. So we have to speak to the client's technical team in order to know what do they have. Are we exposing any data? Are we going to receive some data from them? Are we going to send that data back to them? So we have to do that collaboration. We also have some documentation that we have to provide, like high-level design documentation, which is a very brief design of what we believe we can achieve. So we outline all the key parts of the customer journey that will be translated into Pega, or that will be developed in Pega. I use develop because actually coding, most of the times you'd be configuring. That's where the low code, no code comes in. So it's very rare you'll find somebody going in the back end writing code. That's the beauty of Pega.
That's exactly the question I was about to ask. You're talking about coding, but we hear no code. They're worried and getting confused.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's really into the no code, but obviously based on the knowledge of the no code technology, the Pega technology, that's what you're translating into their business needs.
Exactly. So we, Pega, we leverage we leverage a portal which, we call it a system, a citizen developer portal. Even yourself, Aisha, you can go in and actually, be able to build.
I did.
You did, yeah. From Pega, Pega Express using
Yes.
App Studio. Without having to do much, and actually, you're able to get a website running, and you're able to, to get this customer journey and run it, and it actually works.
As a matter of fact, I know that within the audience, because I saw her name popping up, there is one of the 10,000 Coders alumni who has been trained in the no code, low code, and she's the one who, Hamjetu, we see you. She is one of those alumni who has been absolutely tremendous in her journey. It's just amazing how no code has changed her life. And so I'm doing a little bit of an advertisement for Hamjetu here. Hamjetu has been creating websites of some of the 10,000 Coders experts. Like and she used the no code to do that.
Wow.
So that's how beautiful it is, right?
Yeah. And it's good. It will be curious to know how long did it take her to kind of understand, and how quickly she got.
Listen, probably not long. She was just passionate about it. So here's her website. And by the way, Hamjetu, I'm looking at this and I want to say, Hamjetu, where is the English version of this website? I've been waiting for it for quite a while. Hamjetu, we need to talk. Okay, let's move back. So I can't tell you how long it took her, but what I can tell you for sure is that from the moment she started doing that, and the moment she moved to no code, she literally multiplied by 10 her revenue.
Wow.
So it because obviously she was able to build the websites faster, in a more efficient way, with all the security components that are needed. Obviously, when you're talking about websites, and the delivery, and on top of that, Hamdiato, actually, she does train people. She has an offering. So either you take the package where she's delivering the website for you, and she's at the back end when you need changes here and there and making sure that your website is up and running smoothly. Or if you want to have your hands on your website, well, then she offers also training packages. So she's one of those girls I like to talk about. I'm just
Wow.
That's impressive. That is
impressive.
I'm glad to see you.
That is great to hear. Wow.
So for those of you who are listening to us, no code, it's not only about, the solutions that you can offer you can do so many things, but you can build an app for a marketing department, you can build an app for you can build those for a bank, but you also can build a website and gather clients from that. And that's exactly what Hamdiato has been doing. So yeah.
Aisha, I will say that when we do implement, right, I work with a lot of business clients. And part of the enablement that we have too is making them citizen developers. That's our goal. So now we're giving the business, a hands-on lift, right? Once we build the application so that they can help to manage it themselves. And so they don't necessarily have developer backgrounds, but they can understand what they can do with the system, and be very powerful with that so that it transforms their operations. So I think that's great that, we have folks that's doing that right now.
Well, Hamdiato, thanks for the hype. Yeah, you're very welcome, Hamdiato. And I'll keep on sharing the hype because, well, we know what is coming up for the future.
That's right.
Right.
Definitely. Right, yeah. I'm still amazed by by that. I wish we can get more, more women, and more people.
Elvis, you'll be my women empowerment lead for this because we sidetracking a little bit, but and that's the reason why I'm shouting out at someone like Hamdiato. There are other girls within the alumni group from 10,000 Coders, but I always keep on saying they are not enough. They're not enough. And the thing is, we can see with the examples we have, like Hamdiato, they are capable, they are smart, and they have the can-do attitude. So there's no reason, absolutely no reason for you ladies to join the wagon and just do your magic.
Definitely no fear at all. Especially if you're a consultant. And if you then start to move from one client to another client, you gain that confidence. Even if you're one girl, let's say in 5-10 different men, if you're one woman in 10 different men, you've got that confidence. You can speak out. So definitely I encourage. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is what we're doing right now.
Exactly.
That's exactly the reason.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Right. Always.
Yeah. So
let's move on to the life cycle. Coming back to our topic.
Yeah. So coming back to our topic, to the life cycle. So we try to. I think the main goal is build for change. So whatever we're implementing now, at later time, let's say if we Pega develop consultants, we're out and onto the next project. The customer is able to, in the future, with Pega, with App Studio, they're able to either go on and configure and continue building on additional applications, do other things with the Pega product. Also, at the same time, if they need some more expertise, whatever we've developed can be extended, can be leveraged, and that's the beauty of Pega. So we try to solve the business problem, design for experience. So make sure it's not just, we've not just captured requirements and function, but we also make sure that it's intuitive. We take into consideration, depending on what the business requirements are, is it accessible to all needs, depending on who their target audience is, who the customer users are, and also make sure that we collaborate effectively with, because remember, we're developers, we're going to speak to the testing team, to the business acceptance testing team. We will be speaking to the product owner, who is the master, who owns basically what's being developed, basically. And if we've got any issues, we've got any questions, or like to educate them or bring to their attention, we will speak to them. So we have to make sure that communication and that that relationship is kept at peace. There are exceptions where things get out of hand, but it is always controlled, and that's where the client success manager comes in to make sure things are as they should be. So again, we leveraged the power of Pega. There's a lot you can do. There's a lot you can do out of the box. So when I say when you configure, a lot of things happen out of the box, and you don't need to know much about it, unless if there are circumstances where it requires some customization, but it's minimal, because Pega is evolving every single time, and new features are brought in. We're kept up to date, basically, and we always upgrade, and now it's getting even more continuous, so the customer benefits from that. So agility and scaling, we build for change, so make sure that the application we're building is scalable, can be extended, what can fit in within the organization and whatever they would like to leverage, and also we deliver in time. So
how do you differentiate between, because there can be a blurry line between what you do during that build phase, but also making sure that the client understands what he has, how it works. How do you differentiate between you and Boris? Is there a clear-cut line between your two roles and how you interact with the client, or can it become sometimes a little bit blurry and we're not really sure?
I think, the way, if I may answer it, and again, you can correct me, but how it work is, so between us and Boris, or myself and Boris, I don't want to say us, myself and Boris. So I communicate or I collaborate with the business in terms of what I've implemented, what I'm delivering to the customer during the review session. So the customer is able to see what has been built best, and what are the requirements, have we met those requirements? And then the time, Boris will always step in and out to make sure that the customer is happy with what we're developing, what we're implementing. He doesn't come in at the end. He's always there throughout, up to go live, route to go after go live. He's always there, and he will be communicating. There's a bit of a structure in place to make sure that there's that collaboration. So yeah.
And are you the one running the testing? Because I know we do have, if I take my example, so I have the team of pre-sales, and then the working with the sales with us, customer success managers. And when we get into the implementation, it's really the system architect. But then we have a different set of people running the tests for the client. Is that the case within Pega? And I'm asking, so just to finish on that, and I'm asking because there is this profession around testing, right? So how does that work?
So there's a few, I'll say 3 phases, right? So there's the internal testing, which is in sprint testing, or it's developer testing, which is part of the definition of done. So I can pick up a function and I get it done. There's a few tests that I have to do to make sure what I'm delivering works, basically. So that's in sprint testing, and it can be also broken down to, testing the rules themselves and actually testing the functional testing as well. Then there's the client side as well. They have their set in testers, and those will also test exactly what I have done to, give a check that, okay, what Elvis says he's done, yes, he has done, he has met the acceptance criteria, and yes, we can move on. So that, and it happens in different environment. It isn't the same environment, because we try to make sure that whatever we're delivering up to the live environment works throughout, is consistent. And then there's also the business acceptance testing. And those are it's a set number of users. Can be yourself, can be somebody within the client who actually doesn't know about Pega, but they just want to be able to use the application. And those are the people that will test. They'll be giving feedback back to us in terms of feedback to the PO, feedback to the business, feedback to us, to make sure that whatever that we're delivering as part of the business journey meets their needs. Does that answer your question?
It does. I saw a comment earlier. Let me try and okay. Gretel, maybe you can comment just to confirm this one as well. Mandela Solution says, but we do still code in Pega that is for more advanced developers, pro developers. I just said it's not the case. Pro developers.
It depends. No, at the moment we try to avoid developing coding in Pega. And there's strict rules on that. Actually, they're called guardrail warnings. So whenever you try to bring in any customized code, Pega will automatically be flagged. It won't be rolled over into the next environment. So you have to give us a good reason why that you've done advanced coding, which isn't necessary. And let's not confuse coding and configuring. Mm-hmm. So coding is when you physically go in and write some Java code. Exactly. Configuring, is you put pieces and pieces together to make sure the machine works. It runs.
Come on, I've seen it in the Pega Express. I've seen how I can move one box from here and then put it there, and then so. No need to be a pro developer. However, if you want to be a Java developer or full stack, that's a total different story. The reason why it is called no code is because the code development part has been crunched into moving boxes around.
Yes.
Really.
So, I mean, if you think about it, right, Pega is a case lifecycle product. And we do have a lot of different applications as a starter kit to be able to extend off of. But for the most part, we look at, the business problem. We have the ability to go through a process and not have to do any coding. We have the ability to extend and get data without having to go through coding from external systems, right? And be able to mirror that. So we do have parameters in the toolkit, even our user interfaces, right? Whether that's drop downs, auto-completes, being able to share links, all of that doesn't require coding. So that's what's really amazing about Pega. And so it would be very far and few in between in terms of having to customize the application coding. For the most part, we do configuration. And so that's what's really exciting about it. And that's what makes us faster.
And probably more efficient because you're not coding, and coding is sometimes prone to mistakes.
That's right.
And unless you have to spend that time. I know I see some of the engineers with where I work, when they start coding, they're thinking, okay, something is wrong, so I have to go back to my code because it's a source. Well, with Pega, we're not talking about coding.
Yep. And we have, within Pega, we have guidelines. So the application itself if it sees that, you know, someone is doing something outside of those guidelines, we actually have errors that will remind people, hey, what are you doing? Let's fix, and, you know, let's fix,
Violation.
let's play with guardrails. So that, you know, that's really important as part of the features of our technology, is that.
Oh, Gretel, you're frozen.
Yeah.
Yes, Gretel is frozen. Okay, so just before we go any further, Elvis, you did mention security at some point. Mamadou Doumbia is asking if we can talk about the security side in the low code.
So again, the security side is handled for you by Pega at some extent. The rest, because we manage all the security when you're using our platform. So security can go at a bigger, you know, we can talk security for a bigger extent, but there's a few things that we do manage in terms of security. We manage auditing. We can do content policy in terms of what can we show, what is allowed when you're using Pega that you'll be able to see. We do single sign-on. So you don't have to log in each and every, you know, if you're in each and every application. So it depends what sort of security. And again, you don't have to write code for this. They are wizards that, oh, I wouldn't say wizards, but there are configuration pages that are there, where all it is, it just asks you for, you know, a few lines of let's say text that you want to put in. For instance, if I want to do SSO, obviously that gets a bit more requirement, more advanced, you know, configuration. But if you want to do a basic authentication, I just want to log in with my username and password, you know, that's easily done. So it depends what you want to do, but most of it can be done in Pega.
So do you need to have, at least, do you handle the security part, or do you need to have a security system architect to handle that?
So that it depends. When we talk about it depends on what you mean by security, because we handle in terms of if you're on the Pega cloud, we handle the security, right? In terms of with Pega World. But then you manage your security in terms of the external systems that, you know, are integrating into Pega. And I guess so it depends what you mean, or what you mean in terms of security. How can we, if you break that down, give me an example.
So let's say we're talking about a bank. We know how security is. There are almost cycles about security, right? No matter how many times you're going to tell them our solution is secure, we have the right security best practices, we have the right protocols, we have the right products. That is the key for them, and we know why. So how do you handle the security topic when you are in a build phase with a banking client?
So currently I'm actually on a project with one of our banking, one of the banks that are in the UK, and they have a strict, you know, as you've said, they're quite strict, and it was one of the things that she was brought up in the morning, and it's like, why are we not picking up some of these things? You know, we're a bank and we need to make sure these things are picked up in development before, you know, it goes out. But we have rules in Pega that can handle such requirements. For example, if you want to, you know, certain users not to be able to see, to do actions or certain actions or view certain things, we've got rules in there that can handle that. And I call them rules because again, you just configure these rules in terms of, you configure these rules to help to avoid this access. and we can call some of them we call it access roles. So if you're a business analyst, I wanted to log into Pega portal, but this business analyst doesn't need to have access to reporting, doesn't need to have access to if they're creating the case, do they need to also approve it? No, they don't. So therefore, we manage that. So those are the bits of security that are in place to make sure people are not doing what they shouldn't be doing. If that makes sense, and people shouldn't be viewing what they shouldn't be viewing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, to deal with, oftentimes when we go into the business, right, they have many different folks being accessing different types of cases within the system or work within the system. And so often they have these requirements that says, hey, only my department can access this type of information, or because that they're employee, or maybe they're a VIP, there's only specific people that can access this type of information. So we do have within Pega where based off of rules, we can define who can access what type of information at what point in time within the whole case lifecycle. So, and that is typical. That in every implementation, we do go through security requirements with our clients.
Well, anyway, we're in tech. If you cannot talk security, then you're out. No, I mean, we with everything that we hear today, companies being targeted for XYZ reason, individuals being targeted as well. If we cannot talk security, then there's no need to start that conversation. Well, so we're into the question, we're into the Q&A. We have someone backstage. Her name is Anushka. She is a developer student, and she does have a couple of questions. So, Anushka, can you come up, please, so that you can ask your questions? Anushka, are you there? All right, seems like Anushka is not ready. Right. Let's wait for Anushka to be ready to join us so that she can ask her questions. Seems like, hi, Anushka. Welcome.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you. So my name is Anushka De Souza, and I happen to be Raphael's sister.
Glad to have you on stage, Anushka. Well,
I base in Ghana.
Oh, we have a bit of delay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yes, we do. Anushka, I'll let you finish.
Sorry, I think my network is bad.
Yes, it's all right. It's all right. If you don't mind, just turn off the camera. We've seen you. We know how you look like. So if for the sake of your bandwidth, if you want to turn your camera off, I think that will help with the voice. So I'll let you finish, introduce yourself, and ask your questions to Elvis and Gretel.
Sure.
Oh, this is Anushka's brother. Raphael is one of the biggest advocate of 10,000 coders within Pega. Shout out to you, Raphael. And we're just going to leave Anushka. We're just going to let the time to Anushka. Anushka, the floor is yours. So this is the beauty of the live. We tend to have some technical issues. Look, Anushka, if you cannot hear us, please feel free to pop your questions, and I'll just I'll share them with Elvis, Gretel, and Boris, who is back.
Please, can everyone hear me?
Oh yes, now we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Oh,
She still has a little bit of delay.
Yeah.
Oh, what a pity. Because I know she does have a few questions.
let's see.
Raphael says we are funny. Yes, we are funny, but we're still shouting out at you, Raphael. Right. I think Anushka is having connection issues. So first thing first, Boris, welcome back.
Thank you.
Right. Maybe we can just move forward. We're almost at the end. Actually, we're a little bit over time, but we're waiting for you, Boris, obviously, to come back so that we can finish that. Boris, Cradle, Elvis, your advice for the audience, for those young people who are watching us.
Sure, absolutely. So I think my biggest advice is how can one thrive, right? Not just in a career, but also in life. And I think the three things that I always feel like, regardless of where you are, whether you're a developer, whether you're a business architect, whether you're a customer success manager, or whether you're a doctor, I think that the first one is be open to learn new things. I didn't think that this was going to be my career when I first started out. I thought I was going to be in finance and economics. And, as time progressed, you start to learn things or you fall into things that you didn't think that you would actually gather. So you get that momentum and you understand. And so I think in general, from a career perspective, be open to learning those new things. And then once you actually are in a career like mine, it's important to be able to make sure that you're constantly curious, constantly updating yourself, constantly learning, because technology moves fairly quick, and so does Pega and our releases. And so I think that and also client situations, their competitive situation, their internal situations change as well. So if you're open to learning, I think that's going to help set the tone for you to be successful. The other one is cultivating your soft skills. So whether that's facilitations, working in teams, communication, dealing with conflicts, time management, and those are skills that you don't, it's not particular to this career, but it helps you work with teams. And oftentimes when we do implementations, you're working with teams, you're working with partners, with vendors, and your own internal Pega team. And so it's critical that you understand kind of that interpersonal soft skills to be able to manage the teams and yourself. And then the last but not least is find a mentor. Um, I, like I said, I'm an immigrant from the US. My parents was not in technology. They're not in corporate America. So I had to figure out my own way of navigating through the system. No one really showed me how, but having mentors along the way, whether that's in university or in Pega or in your career, right? To be able to ask those questions and get some advice about how you can proceed and whether or not it fits for you, I think is really important. And finding people who have that experience can help to guide you in your career. So in general, I think that those are the three areas that I would focus on if I was in your shoes, and also what I would take and I still take along in my career path.
The one thing which is key is finding a mentor.
Yes.
The rest should be something that is in your DNA, and at least in your professional DNA, keeping yourself updating, being curious, and developing your soft skills. But having a mentor is what is going to make the difference. Thank you so much, Gretel.
Absolutely.
Elvis.
Yeah, I mean, mine again is again aligned to what Greta has just mentioned. Mine, I said something like, continue to define your passion. your passion always evolves. It always changes. You like this and that, but continue to define your passion and define what roadmap you're going to take. What's the learning path. When I was joining Pega, I had no clue I was going to join Pega. The learning curve was so steep at that time, but I found my way, to understand Pega, to climb up the ladder. I started to build my network within Pega, because I was, as a consultant, it's important, it's key to build your network, because once you know who you're working with and you're excited working with those people, it gets easier to communicate, to collaborate. The other thing is continue to learn both technical and non-technical skills, and those are some of those skills were mentioned by Gretel. Myself, I'm not the best at organization. I'm not that organized. Sometimes I struggle with that, and I'm still trying to learn, trying to improve. I'm still, my presentation skills, I'm still trying to improve that every single day. I'll never get perfect, but I'll always improve, so then I can be better on my next engagement, on my next presentation, on my next communication. My other point is keep finding new opportunities. You never know where you land. So Pega at the moment is broad, and this is an advice as well that I grabbed from from Boris, and I'm going to take on that advice, which is continue to see what opportunities are there. I'm right now I'm a senior system architect. I can go up to a lead system architect, a principal senior system architect, or I can find a sidetrack. I can go to the business side. Now that I know the technical part, I'm curious. I would love to know a bit more about how can I engage more with the customer rather than a developer. The other thing, what we do a lot in Pega is appreciate is feedback. Every engagement, there's always feedback, and however good, however bad it is, I always take it as positive, because it helps me to kind of self-reflect. Was I really good at what I was doing, or are there improvements that other people have noticed that I didn't notice? So don't take negative feedback as bad feedback. It's always good to take it, try to understand where did that person come from. It's not always, oh, that person doesn't like me. It's about what do they see in me? Do they want me to progress, or how do I view this feedback? And my quote is, don't be afraid to go for something you like. It's always amazing to look back and see how far you've become, and yet you still have a big journey ahead. That's it.
That one is actually very insightful. The one thing I always tell to my mentees is that so you did mention bad feedback, but there's no bad feedback. There's only feedback, because you can only improve. Because from the moment someone gives you some feedback, it means that person wants to see you thrive. Because if someone just sits there, listens to you, or at least acts as if they were listening to you, and they tell you nothing, oh yeah, no, that's fine, then they don't want to see you progress. Well, the moment they open the mouth and tell them, I like this, that, but for this one you could do better, or even if they tell you, I didn't like it, like you said, this is the moment you can self-reflect and do better the next time. Thank you so much, Elvis. Last but not least, Mr. Quivy.
I cannot stress more on there is no bad feedbacks. I heard people talk about hard feedbacks or bad feedbacks. There is no such a thing. Everything is just a feedback, and then you take it, and then you learn, and then you grow from it. My advice will be basically same thing that Gretel and Elvis just shared. Right. The first thing I would say, be curious. I think Gretel already mentioned that. Be curious to learn new things. Anything that you can see of interest to you. Right. Be passionate. Show your passion. I always like to say, I want to get up every single morning doing something that I really like doing, right? If I had to go to work, I had to do something that I really don't like to do, there's no point of it. So just be passionate, discover your passion, discover, what you really like, and just go after it. And be open to opportunities. I'm sitting here. I think I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar that I spent all my professional life in the United States. when I was in my master's degree, when I was doing my master's degree in France, and then they wanted to send me to the United States for my internship, I literally said, no, I'm not going for many different reasons. My dean has to literally force me to come here. And then they begged me to come here for 6 months. 22 years later, I'm still here, right? So just be open to opportunities. You don't know where life is going to take you. When you're curious, you're going to learn new things. You're going to discover new passions and just go after it. And then life is going to be better.
You said it all. All I have to say is amen. What else can we say? Well, before we even try to close this, because we could talk, I feel like we could talk on and on and on, because we're having such an interesting topic today, above the fact that we've been talking about the second phase of the Pega Agile delivery, the build phase. There is so much more. I would like to give it another try with Anushka. I know she's been having internet issues. Anushka, can you hear us?
Can hear you, sir.
Wonderful. So, Anushka, I'll let you finish your presentation and ask at least your first question. Go ahead, please.
All right. Okay, sure. Thank you. So my name is Anushka De Souza, and I happen to be Raphael De Souza's little sister, and I'm based in Ghana. I currently attend a tech school called IPMC, and I study a course called NCC. We are learning all about tech, including coding and then web development and more. I came to know more, and I've got some of my colleagues with me here in the audience. I'm excited to hear more. So my first question is for you, Gretel. First of all, I'm very inspired to see you and then Aisha as women on this panel. Anyways,
Yeah.
my question is, Africa has always had a perception problem, and some of this is understandable, but more of this is just unfair. How do you think young Africans getting into tech can help change the perception, especially for young women?
Absolutely. So the way that I think about this is that it also happens in the US as well too, where in technology there's a lot of males representation instead of female representation, and you'll see that within the female representation, it's often on the quote unquote softer side, the business architect, the customer success managers, etc. So there is, from one aspect, that perspective, but I see over the years, and I've been in this career for over 20 years, that more and more there's more women that are interested in technology and having a career in there. And the exciting part of the technology, because it is there's an aspect of not just doing the systems work, there's a change management aspect. And I believe that having a holistic view and not just, a diverse perspective, not just male, but a female perspective, and then when we look at change and when we look at implementing projects, having representation, women representation actually empowers and makes the product better when we work with clients that has different demographics, has females. I have a lot of female client leaders and executives. And so we as Pega, we as developers, right, we as coders need to also reflect that. And so we have to push that. I don't think we're there yet, but I think that it's important that we, everybody, not just females, have a hand in making sure that there's better representation of women in technology.
And if I may add,
Okay.
Anushka, there's one thing that we have to remind ourselves. It's that tech is where it is today thanks to women. Do not think that it's only
Okay.
male. I can think of one or two ladies. For instance, Admiral Dr. Grace Hopper, who is the one who created the first accessible computer programming language in English. Okay, and there is one movie which actually made me starting looking into that. It's the one called The Hidden Figures.
Oh, yes.
And that movie is absolutely powerful. If you have the opportunity to watch it, Anushka, go watch it. So one thing that, as I said earlier, one thing that you have to remember to keep in mind, it's that women shaped tech. We may be out of it as of today. We may not have enough representation, but you have a seat at the table.
That's right. That's
You
right.
have a seat at the table and you can come and take your seat. You have the capabilities, you have the passion. That is more than enough for you to sit at the table. That's number one. Number two, having less women within tech is dangerous for our future, because all the applications that we see that are developed, unfortunately, all the data which is coming into it, which is being pulled into it, it's come from male. So the male representation is much higher, and that is exactly what is happening also in the healthcare industry. But this is another topic. But bear in mind that if we women, we do not take our seat at the table, you do not need to be the technical one. And this, I'm not telling this only to you, Anushka. You chose to pursue a technical education, and that is absolutely wonderful. That is the kind of representation that we want to see. But for the others, you do not need to have a technical background, technical education to set a foot into STEM. You do have a seat at the table.
And I will say that, and that's why it's like, find a mentor, right? Because I think it's really important to be able to see, people like ourselves, whether it's women, whether it's the same ethnic group, right? That you don't see. Be me being Filipino, right? I don't necessarily see that all the time in my line of work, and so having representation. Even this course, that what we're doing now with 10K coders, the purpose and what it serves, that's absolutely correct. Like African youth learning technology, being able to do that, having women, I think it's important for us to be able to inspire, instill, and make sure that we have a seat in the table, so that there's, we get creative, better products, a better future when we have a diverse group of folks all kind of providing input to our future and our technology. So yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you for such a great question, Anushka. Because I say it, I'm very loud about it within 10,000 coders. I mean, they know whenever we have the discussions, that's the first point that I raise. But again, the mentor, as Gretel said, is going to be absolutely critical for you, for your female peers. Find your mentor. The mentor doesn't necessarily have to be within the company you'll be working in. Find a person who inspires you. Do not hesitate to reach out to that person. That is another thing that we tend to keep ourselves from doing, because we think that the other person is not reachable for XYZ reason. But the mentoring part is going to be absolutely critical. All right. Anushka, have you gotten any other question? We're taking one last before we close this.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
No worries.
Yes.
Any other question?
Very much. Very inspiring.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome.
So I have my second question, of course, if I can.
Absolutely, go for it.
So my second question is for my brother, Boris. So, yes, please, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
I can hear you.
Anushka, we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, so my second question is for my Togolese brother, Boris. My brother has told me a lot of good.
All right, this is another thing with the webinars. Every single time we need to reach out to those folks on the continent. This is the number one issue that they always face. Okay, we unfortunately lost her again.
Yeah, I'm, like I said earlier, I'm an investor on the continent, so I face this issue quite often.
Mm-hmm.
But if Anushka will have, if Anushka can send, through the question through email, I will be happy to answer the question.
Well, let's try and see if we can get her to. Oh, she's back. Anushka, you're up.
Back again.
Go ahead.
Yes. Yes. So my brother has told me a lot of good things about you from a man perspective. What do you need, or what do we need to do to get more young women in Africa interested in tech?
I mean, that's a very good question. And I think how Gretel and Aisha just mentioned that, right? More we talk about it, more we encourage, young girls to get involved in tech. And quite frankly, more we show people that, tech doesn't need to be complicated. It's nothing complicated. Everyone can actually strive in the tech world. We need to encourage people to get in. And one of the things that I like to do, for example, is to invest in women who are entrepreneurs and building a tech companies. There are a lot of those things that I'm seeing more and more now, and I'm really encouraged by that. But we need to talk more about the life in the tech world, and how that can inspire other young ladies, to join us. Mentor is one key thing that Aisha and Gretel also mentioned. Mentor in the field or outside of the field is great, regardless. But if you find mentors in the field of IT or technology who really can show you what is possible, the art of the possible for every single person, I think that will really inspire more people and more young ladies, more young girls, and then they will join. I have a daughter, and then I can literally every single day I talk to her about technology and show her how she can also strive in this area.
Right.
If she chooses to.
Yeah, Boris, I do the same thing. I talk to my niece, and sometimes on my way with my project calls, she kind of listens a little bit, and I say, hey, is this something that you would like to do? Because I think it's important to get them to start thinking about it starts in school too, right? With math and whatnot. It all the way starts from like high school. And so getting women to kind of understand, young girls to understand that this is a field that they can go into and not be afraid to try out something different that was historically male, I think is important. So yeah, I think that's great that you do that for your daughter.
Oh, thank you.
And before we finish, we have one last question for Elvis from Anushka, because we obviously she's having trouble with her connection. So we're going to at least give her the opportunity to have her questions answered. Question for Elvis: when it comes to technology hiring, what do you imagine to be the main challenges on the African continent, and how do we overcome them?
Wow, that's a very good question. I think personally, in my own opinion, the technology. I don't think there is a challenge. I think sometimes we shy away from these opportunities, and reaching out to to these companies like, let's say, Pega, to follow their programs. It doesn't stop me from because some of these programs are free. They're there. You can have a go, see if you're really interested into it. Then reach out to the company. Research on the company, find out. I mean, for me, the challenge I see sometimes is that bit of confidence. What if I apply and they'll automatically reject me because it's as we know, tech is more white dominated, and we Africans, we have we're not considered. There's always that stereotype, but I always go against that stereotype, and it's why we're in the position where we are. So I always say never to give up in terms of reaching out. If you do get a chance and you have an opportunity onto an interview, or you're contacted by a company, make sure you outshine so they see that you are interested in in working for them or working with them. If you're a company and you want to be a partner, yeah, I think that's all I can say. I mean, Boris can elaborate a bit more.
I mean, if I get a chance, yeah, I think on the continent there are times where you face infrastructure challenge. Let's just call it that way, right? However, there are a lot of things that we can do in tech in Africa, and actually, what something's very encouraging is a lot of people are doing great things on the continent in technology as well. So how can we, when we think about tech, let's think about tech in the environment of Africa. How can we use tech to solve problems that we have in Africa? And quite frankly, we have a lot of those problems, right? And I think it's just a matter of being open-minded, look at what around you, and then think about how technology can help us do this. Mm-hmm. I think that's all we need, and there's no hard barrier, for us to strive in technology on the continent.
Absolutely not.
I will say this too, that with our clients, we have a lot of clients who has an appetite to do more implementations. And we have a lot of partners in our ecosystem that want to do more Pega work. And oftentimes we don't have enough people, not enough Pega-enabled folks. And so there is really a global opportunity to include, African youth, African Pega-specific type of technology to be enabled and to work with other clients outside of Africa as well, who may want to implement projects as partners. And so I just want to put a tidbit out there that if there is technologists who are interested in Pega, right, we work, with Jamaica, we work with India, we work with multiple different areas across the global world to work on behalf of American clients. And so, that's an opportunity for Africa. So
you have your call to action.
That's
Pega
right.
Academy, start with it. You also can reach out to 10,000 coders for the next stage, especially when it comes to the orientation, because if you have no idea what exactly you want to do after you graduate from education, whether it's a technical school or even general education, we are here to help you with the orientation. We partnered with Pega for that as well. So make sure that you check out a Pega Academy and also 10,000 Coders website. Now, we are way beyond the time, but that says how interesting the topic is. Obviously, Gretel, thank you for the call to action, because this is exactly what we need. We need to make sure that they understand that there is the opportunities out there. It's up to them to grab them. Find your mentors. Go on LinkedIn. Reach out. People are always happy when you reach out to them. Don't be afraid. Take your seat at the table, ladies, because you deserve it. you have the capabilities, you have the passion, and you can gain the knowledge. As Boris said, technology is not necessarily complicated. So it's up to you to break that barrier down and to take on the stage. Now, having said that, this was the second webinar of the 3-part webinar of No Code. We will see you for the third part in April, precisely on April 4th, with another set of experts. Gretel, Elvis, Boris, thank you so much for the quality time tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a great time. We like I said, we're way over the time. Obviously, we still have a lot that we can cover on that, but we want to make sure that this is as digestible as possible. So we will have to have a hard cut now. But thank you so much again for taking the time. We highly appreciate that. And I'm sure that the audience had an amazing time listening to what you do at Pega, but also the advice that you have to share, because we don't hear it enough. So we're going to make sure that we are as loud as possible. I'm thanking Anushka as well for taking the time to be with us tonight and for her wonderful questions. Thank you so much, Anushka, if you still listen to us. Well, having said that, I wish you all... Oh, and thank you, Raphael, as well, obviously. Mr. De Souza, our coach, the strongest voice for 10,000 coders, the best advocate we can have out there. Thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you for all the experts who have been joining us so far. I wish you a great end of the day. The gifts that keeps coming. Thank you, Raphael.
Thank you, Aisha, and thanks for 10,000 coders as well. Thanks for having us.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for giving us the opportunity.
Aisha.
We are really happy you guys are our partner, and we're looking forward to what the future holds. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Bye.
What is Pega? No, it's not that. Or this. Impressive teamwork, though. Still no. And definitely not whatever this is. Pega's a powerful low-code platform for AI-powered decisioning and workflow automation. So you spend less time doing this. And this. And more time getting work done, like the folks at the most demanding organizations who use Pega every day. But not exactly these folks, because this is stock footage. With Pega, you hyper-personalize each and every piece of customer engagement. You streamline customer service experiences so customers and agents are both happy. To put it plainly, we help you get more done by doing less. That way, your operations team is worthy of a dramatic slow-mo. You can acquire and onboard new customers and partners faster, and you can quickly respond to problems and exceptions before they happen. Not this problem, this one. The best part? You can do it all on a collaborative low-code platform, meaning you don't have to be these guys to adapt to change at light speed. Are you ready to connect people, process, and tech across your enterprise and feel as confident as the folks still walking in slow-mo? Well, it's never been simpler. Get ready to crush your business complexity. No, not like that. Like this.